All so that and just simply tablet and top jalana much for Sanjay Kumar was a teenager Tobacha. Teacher and the Chanjo symbol loved and the switch in the Lawale symbol, similar to the Tojishu Manoach Kotu, and the cause of the duck and just was what the cause of the duck, because Lale so to maintain that station.
So then we assess our motivation as we normally do. And that motivation is, of course, to do whatever we possibly can, do our very best to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to be of benefit to all sentient beings, knowing that to attain this state, I must perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those trainings, I need to have a thorough understanding of what they are about, and I gain this by being able to rely on a trustworthy and unmistaken presentation, a text. And it is this in mind that I am here to hear a short explanation on the text known as the 37 Practices of the Bodhisattva this morning.
And that the rank Dunkin Nangala Takaja Namjuna Shichen and Kasoda that more and getting Lama Yimbala, number and the Kasoda JNS, that Chaplin Johnson, that Karina Chashima. Samata, or the Samata, what is chat.
And then, as normally too, we set up the merit field, the space in front of us. In actuality, our own root guru, one aspect or one representation of the deity Avalokiteshvara or Chenrezig, be it the 1,000-armed, 1,000 eyes Chenrezig, or the 4-armed or the 2-armed, whichever is more obedient to us for us.
And then rang to set up what is the rang tago rang jinche marking simple jata masawa mebach and you some subject what is.
And then we visualize in the space all around us all kind, mother, sentient beings without exception.
What is the what is it? And Tawan is a town and was a Shabbat Shoba Kariobai. Chapter Metua Pula Suba Kariobana, and the Tawan is a rangi and Tuson Savi Keksa. Rangi Tawa was simply Tamjeg Tuson to Savi Keksa. Take and Trebeg and Susu June. And that don't some Tonchip Chidan can Yonso Khan. What is your subject? What had me and but say, you something what did it commission? And that doing the number settle. And he or Jama took a home's commission. Took a home there, we said, part of member trouble and Shingram Jan never. Church, Shingram Jan never, Yeshiva, only the Java Jan. And the Yeshiva, the negative Tamsis, Lavajeres at the La Party. And only one good. And Rabami Ujamas. What did it commission?
So then we make offerings that are both real and imagined. The real, be it our own offering bowls, flowers, etc., anything, the real that we have, but also our own root virtues. And indeed, all of what we can imagine that is excellent and wonderful in all of the three world systems, and be it the offerings of gods and of human beings, all offered to the deity, who is extremely pleased with those offerings. And then we see that they are marked, the figure is marked by the letters at the crown, A at the throat, and Hung at the heart. And light rays emanate from that Hung at the heart, going out into the pure realms and inviting all of the wisdom beings and the empowering deities from their natural abodes. And the wisdom beings come and dissolve into the figure of Chenrezig, and the empowering deities confer empowerment. And then from the nectar that overflows on the crown appears the figure of Amitabha.
I need to what and around the rank Magasam that time again, Joe or Jabba took off the Yigasum, what did the chair commission, what did the chair?
And then also that we ourselves and all the sentient beings all around us, all the kind mother sentient beings, are similarly marked by those three syllables, at the crown, A at the throat, and Hung at the heart.
我的kuma she ani semje la mi pe ani chik chamba de ninche de tsewa ani de da ani jitu ta kaso de jitu door jitu la kon ko tu la sam ta ne ani ne jong ta ani di kune la ne ta ka je ninche ta我的你这个你这讲吧的这完了说我的这아니 둘라 세트베 라마 제레스라 미네 안티 땅에 대봐 이시게 대봐 뭐도 그 대봐 아니 섬제다가 탐잖아 아니 잠깐 저 타치 봐 아니 두베 타치 봐 또 두베 쳐도 아니 라마 제레스 고마 뭐 좀 탐도 두베 치기 라마 제레스 두기를 유베 아니 가서다 다까지 저기 가서 투주를 유베다 같이 연대지게다 랑게 토바잖아 안 타이바 막겠습니다 탐장 라마 제레스다고 가마 두베 섬제 두투와 쇼투와 다게 지가 제다제는 라마 제레스 징글라도서 선대체
So then we focus on all of the sentient beings all around us with the mind of love and kindness, compassion, and that all of the people and all of the beings in the 6 realms of existence, that is, that are really contemplating on how they are completely mired in and revolving in cyclic existence and all the sufferings therein, and thereby really contemplating on a sense of renunciation to kind of gain definite emergence from that suffering state, and also reflecting on the compassion that can arise out of that realization of renunciation. And then we focus on the figure of Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara, with a mind of faith, a faith of conviction, the faith of manifest faith and pure faith. And thinking on the ultimate objective here at hand is for myself to attain that state of enlightenment in order to be of perfect benefit to all these suffering mother sentient beings in the 6 realms of existence. How wonderful it would be if I could attain such a state dependent upon and gaining the qualities of the enlightened Buddha Chenrezig. May I be able to attain that state. I will be able to attain that state. Oh, Guru Deity, please bless me to be able to attain that state.
What the little Sunday Chavalatan, Lama Cheris, Tujule, to say that my research dream, but around the Langta subject, Martian, and it's a Tomala debate the Tibachi, the Kebatuya, Nianjunda, Janju, the Janta, the Tawa Chavala, and the Patuchi debate the Tibatama, some subject. Take it, yes, year 2. And you to Lama Cheris, Tujulu, you want to share, you to the Nuva Chavacha, some sort of question.
Then, as a result of making these strong, really powerful, heartfelt supplications, the descending nectar light begins to flow from the heart center of the figure of Chenrezig in the space in front of us, and descending through our crown chakra and all the crown chakras of all sentient beings all around, with the white light predominant on the outset, in affecting a purification of all of the obscurations and negativities that we have accumulated since beginning this time in general, and in particular the particular karmas and obstacles that are preventing our perfecting the trainings of renunciation, of the training of in the mind of enlightenment and in the correct view of emptiness itself. And that we really feel that as a result of this purification that we have, the kind of really can fulfill the potential that we have within for attaining all of the enlightened qualities of Chenrezig.
What are the lesson on the Lama Cheris, Commission, what are the what to say, check what is the conversation, what does sometimes check what is check. That has was covered letter.
The Sikche Guba Gena, see some they were that's
that the Gavadil fish or Gavadilla that Shindo Serge Nelson Domain digwe legi tebu tubeson. Deje sola beja digwe nawe miche kese lali is what so it's ya just shujosh jamna.
Awesome. So so we continue now with the text and this today's teaching, but also with that recognition that we are in the presence of Chen Rezi. And that we will begin by just reviewing verse number 8 again. The Subduer said that all the unbearable suffering of bad rebirths is the fruit of wrongdoing. Therefore, even at the cost of your life, never do wrong. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
What did it tell? That there's no yet the letter that Miguel Nianson, that Yawa Yita to Dula so what and that can that to the part of never know there to get and Suka Chulon Sobaka Mare, to get exited their Mare, to get Garsana, so sugar Lenya Basawa Tene, and the Jebut Nogudas Lenya Bataka said she was so good to Tungena, and to be legit waiting for 2 years, so start to be legit with Chate Mento, Shebachulone, and the Chetek your Mares. So appena nyawa meti sukanga meti songa yo mare nyawa meti and so leg onge and meti to moich yonga nyawa soja diga suka songa yo factory yo mare ta gares na the soja diga rang leg onge charwach and dunga na so no tech what that is so good de che sola beja digbele and now yam machi and now yam machi wata kese cha ju samba sugen ta kasate
So this verse is clearly pointing out where the responsibility for suffering lies. And so it's saying here that all the unbearable suffering of bad rebirths is the fruit of a wrongdoing. In other words, it is not anybody else's fault. There's nothing else that we can point to except for and it's not an accidental, chaotic kind of occurrence, but rather the unbearable sufferings that we have learned about in the lower realms of the animal realms, the hungry spirit realms, and the hell realms is down to the negative karma that we ourselves have accumulated. And saying even the environments of the hot hells, for example, that the fire in those hot hells, to say, where or how is it? How does it come about? How is it created? It comes from the karma that we have created for it itself. And even those these oppressive guardians of the hells, where do they arise? How do they arise? They arise from the karma, and we've created the karma for them to exist.
我倒就是当然他你说咱们我就这个点对率来吧呢他反正恰吧呢我说告诉的他的米率的来的米率的来吧呢东个那说话去这个东个高位东个那七位东个这边我们在家面的米边东个没得把套的包东个拉说话这个在看看那个来啥的用这个有的们都先这个这样嘛他我说东个感觉个哦这个那个都体育当然的那个都上上有的检查的我的据说的说是中用这个的看这严肃上嘛的电柱带来给外呢中的刚刚带来用这个他让你来少了真用可是我的人说的是
So we should not just leave our understanding of this as being pertinent to the bad rebirths as it mentions in the verse, but rather even if we're born in a so-called fortunate rebirth, say like a human rebirth, it still is the reality of that rebirth. That all of the whole variety of sufferings that we undergo, even as human beings, from the suffering of birth, of old age, of sickness, of death, of meeting with the unpleasant, of searching for what we want but not getting it, etc., etc. All of these are also, something that we have created ourselves. We created the karma for this. It's kind of like we have this really strong habit of always as it were, pointing out others as being at fault for what is occurring to us, and say, oh, this person harmed me, or this person did me wrong, or it's this the fault of this, and so on, something external that has caused this misery for me right now. But we should never lose sight of the fact that the main cause for any unpleasantness that we experience is something that we created ourselves.
그래서 그 주택을 저다들 현지 지역에서年龄 교수는 좀 현재 출로에 소소라지 요데 현지 지역 지금 여름마다 年龄 교 지금 요마 年龄 교도 랑랑사.
And so in the teachings on the law of cause and effect, we learn about the substantial cause and the cooperative conditions. And so whereas cooperative conditions can be something external that can be an effect on how we, on our suffering and so on, but the main cause for our suffering is always that substantial cause that we ourselves are responsible for.
어디를 왜냐면 타마토나 마우스 캔서를 연구해서 지담은 거치기도 와. 이내 타마데 마우스 캔서 차이게 깨게 좋아지래. 현지 지게래. 얘도 年龄 교래에서 가버려. 年龄 교이마이나 타마팅에 건가 마우스 캔서 나고. 지나가면 도와. 그래서 규대 모두 소아이나 녀바도 제보도 연구래. 녀바도 제보도 연구래. 로아다 깨다 채나 녀바도 제보도 연구래. 뒤에 그 다디에서 마우스에서 차에 좀 뭐마데 안에 나게다 지금 그래서 다 가제 샤라 차와라서베 안데 벨레 잡체무 저 사발라 되는 용대와 쓰고 다 깨데 안에 타마토와라서 맞죠 다 깨 좀 지기로 와. 현지적인 좀 지기로 와.
So we take something like mouth cancer. You can see there, of course, that one might, die of that mouth cancer. And one can say that the mouth cancer itself, in terms of its effect on our life and death, is a cooperative condition, sure enough. But the main cause that is behind that is what brought about the mouth cancer initially. And so here, this is part of what we have to understand, that we have laid down the cause for that. And so, and so that's something that is part of the law of cause and effect, that if there is a cause there definitely will be an effect, a result will come about unless something has been done about it. And so here we can talk about the causes that are often, referred to in something like cancer and mouth cancer as being like smoking, for example. But that is a cooperative condition. We ourselves, if the cause hadn't been already present within, we wouldn't have developed the mouth cancer.
네, 어제. 다 이나야 현지 지역에서 근데 개점을 찾아보는 가서라 유 사비 여바이나 현지 지역에 내와이나 사비의 대부분 두고 요마래. 배나 내다 매도라 소가 되게 사비 지역 아니 배 사비 quy 여바이나야 아니 그 사다 류다 아니 추다 되는 마체바 이나 아니 로자다 뭐 치바 이나야 사변지 두개 두고 와 저도 그 제가 전에 이봐 있어 원래 타마마 동안에서 뭐 계속보다 쉬고 자기도 와 이나 뒤 소리에서 봐 이나 아니 그 또지 내세 마당 거죠 내고 리과대 개와 요거 되기도 사실 미지 차사 타마 되네 그 그래서 저도 와 되는 방법 요거도 와
So we can see that neither of these aspects of the karmic causal factors should be ignored. Yes, the substantial cause is primary, but the cooperative conditions are also extremely important because it needs that combination, that coming together of both in order to affect a result. So one can have a seed, for example, say a barley seed or flower seeds or some other seed. And that is of perfect quality, but without the cooperative conditions of good soil, fertilizer, water, etc., that seed will not germinate. And so one can wait for hundreds of years and still one will not see that seed germinate. And so therefore you can see the part that cooperative conditions play is extremely important. It also shows, that, the kind of a necessary of conditions coming together to affect a kind of a fatal cancer, so that one may all those who smoke don't necessarily develop mouth cancer.
Yeah. 어제ner다 어다 그다가 주대 가서 주의 소유 와체 아니 걔들 차장 좀 사서 그 제보도 연구도 봐. 요것도 어쩌래. 이게 토마토를 잡지 지고 말다.
So it's kind of like, so we say yes, so that, one sees the coming together of the substantial cause and the cooperative conditions to bring about a result or an effect. But please don't misinterpret this in any way for that I'm somehow promoting smoking.
야, 어디랬죠? 어디 나고 거기 주다 저부 조단데 어디죠? 다들 이마에서 어떻게 랜드가 남샤스도 쉬워 개체부 차들도 랜드가 남샤스가 랜드가 남샤 약고지 심바이나 약고시 냠내 약고시 거바이나 다 가서다 지금 가서다 랜이 말 마슈엘라 다 쉬워지 다 좀제시에 톤 아니 랜이 말 마슈아 차기 좀제시에 톤 랜을 안데 이마에서 다 가자 아니 저기 가서다 저기 가서다 기부 충고와 저도 이마이나 기부 충고와 먼저 하다미 고마 되도 이게 지마이나 예수를 좀 맞줘도 개체부修사고 요래 아니 내가 다 타바 줄 건데 인다네 나 탐색 개마 줄 건데 뒤장네 개체부修차지기도 와 어디다 인자 대대 인자 아니 자주 삼아서 개체부 쓰는 냠래 제고래 수고요 왔다 제그래서
So you see how, in fact, the presentation of the law of cause and effect is something which is a real priority for us to not only understand, but to assimilate and to integrate into our whole way of life. It's something, and that, we can see the reasoning that's going to inform our behavior out of that law of cause and effect, to the reasoning to be able to avoid and not fall under the control of negative karma. So this is something that's really key, isn't it? We meet the importance of the law of cause and effect, even at the level of the smaller capacity being teachings, where they're trying to adjust their karmas to attain the state of a positive human rebirth as a human being or as a celestial being. And then how much more important is it for somebody who is then at the medium capacity range where their goal is to attain liberation from cyclic existence at all. And then, as is pointed out in this verse, it is of paramount importance. It becomes absolutely paramount for anybody aspiring to the Bodhisattva's way of life, that they must abide by the law of cause and effect. And therefore, even at the cost of your life, never do wrong is the advice in the verse.
And the land 남자가 조단데 야고시 엔디 냠래도 제잖아 아니 랑게 녀모 스타트 from the 조사로 녀모게 망고 제게 아니 제 가서다 말도 눈쯤에 아니 피게 계속 가 동에 조사세 소리 제 아니 난 남바이 나 대과 제보이 슬랍 아니 동에 존데 아니 나 눈쯤에 그에 계속 아니 나 강에 조사스 딱 가자 당고시는 다 레데 촌이 개말리가 다 지금 진짜 잡으라다 용것도 왔다 네가 저기 개제다 주도 소수고 주에다 네가 제도 아니 파저들 컨트롤돼 숙세모 마사에다 파저를 내바게 삼로돼 숙제점 좀 마요 이 개발 시우죠 다디 그때 비다와 시에 저게 아니 네가 저게 아니 저게 라라야 아니 제 가서다 개구리여바지 하고도 와 좋아 라라 개구리여바 한번 거다 나 너쯤에 뒤 제소스도 때는 녀모가 구급식차도 와 가서 뭐유가 내서 몽바와 뭐유가 내서 마시면 온게 안다 몽배 온게 용되기도 와
So therefore it's like when we truly and sincerely adopt the law of cause and effect into our practice, into our daily life, we will automatically see a great reduction in the occurrence of mental affliction, and that this is going to really kind of like start the process of where we genuinely take responsibility for our lives, as opposed to when we meet with something unpleasant or something unfortunate happens, we kind of immediately disavow any kind of responsibility for that ourselves. Say, I did nothing wrong. I made no mistake. Why is this happening to me? Why like this for me? And so this is like, we're supposed to be Buddhist, we're supposed to be Mahayana Buddhist, but this is a reaction of somebody who has no connection with Buddhism whatsoever. And there's no understanding, no kind of affinity with the law of cause and effect. And so here we have to really kind of reach that conclusion that the main substantial cause for whatever happens to me is something that I have created myself. And that is a fact that should automatically really lessen an angry, frustrated response. It should bypass with anger and frustration. And so it's very, very important that we kind of see how that when one is supposed to be abiding by the law of cause and effect, it means, in effect, that one is now at last taking full responsibility for our life, for their life, and that there's no one else to point the finger at for what's happened. So we can see that within the practitioners of Buddhism, there are many different approaches and many different kinds, depending on the individual personalities and dispositions of the practitioners, but also depending on their different tenet positions. So we have the Vaibhashika, the Sutantrika, the Chittamattha, and then the Madhyamika schools of the Rangyupa, so the autonomists and the consequentialist schools, And so from our point of view, we consider that the most subtle view with regard to the nature of reality is espoused by the consequentialist school. And yet, in all of the other tenet systems, we see excellent practitioners. Why is that? It's because they have a knowledge of and accept and practice according to the law of cause and effect. And you can see how central that is then to any version of Buddhism, as it were. So here they accept the law of cause and effect, they abide by the law of cause and effect, and even though their views from the point of view of the consequentialist, they seem more coarse, that they may not have a complete understanding of the notion of grasping at an entity, and then therefore the wisdom realizing selflessness or emptiness, and so therefore it cannot gain that full realization or direct realization of emptiness. And yet they abide in perfect ethics. They practice very well patience, and then effort and so on, and generosity. All of these different practices do very well. Why? Because they abide in the law of cause and effect. So even though there's no direct realization of emptiness possible, they still are excellent practitioners. Why? Because they hold to the law of cause and effect. And that's something that we should take note of.
la never tawo yo sem zam de tawa tawa sunda de sem zam de tawa xia zhou song bu duwa song bu duwa yine 장주 그 생각 다 배가진 거 줘라 디갑라 다 뒤럽 줍된 잡된 디갑라 배 출로 용수 도박이 별에 다 출로 디 장주怎么다 쓰지 강하게 아니 그바도 지구리 거지 콘텐츠 차도와 그래서 렌제 그 남자 타지 타와 렌제 아니 가서다 이따고 캐버 캐바나지 타지 타와 냠내 제원도 아니 네가 그가 중화로 왔다 네가 그가 중화로 와
So he's saying, again, as holding up this current text of the 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas composed by Gyaltsay Tokme Sangpo, who, by all accounts, was a tennis holder of the Chittamatra position. He was a mind-only practitioner. And so, even so, that was the case. As far as the Bodhisattva practices and as somebody who exemplified those practices, he was regarded by all in Tibet at that time in the 17th century as somebody who was the exemplar of a bodhisattva. And they had that sort of respect and appreciation for him, regardless of his lower tenet view. And that's because of his adherence to the law of cause and effect. And this is what really brought this about.
Whether I just 다 개쳐부자도 뒤하고 쏘더라 아니 미 통모던 개문도와 미 통나 야부체 미 마도나 아니 야부 마체데 징되게 다디 가르쳤어 그 렌탈에 이치 매버치 다 세우던 거도 와 나라도 들어가서 카메라 투샤바 타고 와다 미 땅에나 야부체 카메라 여나 삼삼체 카메라 메나 삼삼마체 나 디서 가졌다 가르쳤어 렌트스도 다 소소게 지금 가서네 가투 이내 24 hours 7 days 가투 이내 연구 여봐 가서네 다 언제제면 임바 아니 딜라 때네 아니 지금 소소게 다 지금 점바데 세상에 양보 맞다는 렌 여봐 가투 이내 사주죠 여봐 아니 간제제 강에 제발 디기 중간에 디야 릭트베 제고 이거디 이치 이렇게 다 딜랬잖아 디기 딱 간제 가투 이내 아니 남남 숙소게 아니 계획 처럼 줘야다 남남 숙소 믿게 오셔도 숙소 줘도 나시로 너도 나다 내주 방법 신고요 우메다와 데레 지지데레 장주거서 방법 신고요 때 이나야 장고시아바이나 딱다 렌데 그 남자 약고 지금 열어서는 요 말이야 근데 매번 이제 아니 뭐도 너무 깨주죠 강에 또 소리 깨 잡주죠 두고 두죠 때려봤다. 쉬워지 깨져. 렌데 남자들 쉬워지 깨져 뭐.
Really, the importance of the law of cause and effect and of living in accordance with the law of cause and effect cannot be overstated. It's so important that we understand that it is something that is a reality, and it is something that is current all the time in our lives, as opposed to, are we those people who, when somebody is watching, that we're very good people, but when they're not watching, when we're in the privacy of our own home, we're acting in a totally different manner. Or it's like, when the camera is on, and there we're very careful about how we behave, but when the camera is not on, then we are not so careful. So here we have to understand that the camera of karma is on 24/7. And so this is the importance of mindfulness and alertness, of being able to espy even the smallest negativity that's arising and to do something about it immediately. This is at the level of understanding and of integration that we should be working at in terms of the law of cause and effect. This understanding of the harmony between cause and effect, that such a cause will lead to such an effect. And so that there is, this is kind of a hard and fast rule we should have. And so, let's not, be the kind of person who is so eloquent at explaining the middle way point of view, but is not adhering by the law of cause to the law of cause and effect, and therefore is allowing negativities to arise so easily, the mental afflictions to take control so easily, that the pointing of the finger to arise automatically. And so we have to make sure that we have the priorities right here and always emphasize the law of cause and effect.
And Lending Namsa Yakuji, Shimatona, and the Sosa Yamajigana, Kange Gazet Chua Ibaina, Kange to a color, and Kange to a color, same thing, the draw you ticket. Oh, that leg you must have said to send a draw you ticket. Tiki the Joina, oh, should I give you your then? But in the same thing that, oh, Pangu. Oh, that the Gave what they said to do some such those pounding as such. The naked number the joy enough, and the call Lender Winner to Dingy G. Okay, and it number dead. Don't think to what.
And so, what does a kind of like a skillful practitioner of the law of cause and effect look like when they're in practice? So here, for example, when problem arises, when suffering arises for such a practitioner, of course, there is like on the surface suffering for them, but deep down in the mind, there is a sense of some sort of joy, in the sense that they understand what's happening karma-wise here, and that is that there is a negative karma now that is being used up. That part of karma is coming to an end. Because I'm experiencing the result of it in this suffering. And so it's greatly alleviating the surface suffering, and even that they have a genuine sense of a kind of a joy in that suffering. And then on the opposite, when some sort of happiness arises for that same practitioner, that they can, yes, on the surface enjoy that, but deep down in the mind, they are understanding that, something is being burned up here, and the virtuous karma that I've created is being used up. It's being, I'm losing out here, and so there's a small sense of regret at what's happening. And so these are the genuine, more proper reactions or responses for somebody who's integrating the law of cause and effect genuinely into their life.
Leg Massaji Mundo, Leg Masada to get Yungu to us, Yan Sosology, Lapjar is led to it. Ticket to all, ticket Mala Poet, ticket to the Mangasaku to Tiki Maha to go to Select Yawata, and Lado Koya ticket, Tabe ticket to Tabe ticket, Tamte ticket, and the Petru down to what here. What that is, and the quarter is a plan to get you on the order the widows, Narsava to the high in a Shaktum here, and the Sado Masaya and Kulmatia. What are the days you go to Rangi landed, Tataka is to you. Then there you go, Mundona. That take what some more current lava in there. Current lava in there, or that some bush and also say, Yamlet Tata to your Marita.
And so the lessons for that practitioner are that when suffering arises, that of course they understand that this is a negative karma being eradicated, but also the clear lesson that again suffering arises from negative karma, and so it acts as an advisor or a piece of advice to say, do not engage in negativity, avoid negativity. Similarly, when that moment of happiness arises for that practitioner, as well as the understanding that virtuous karma is being used up here, and that's a little bit regretful, but it also shows that I can need to engage more in the kind of virtue that led to this moment of happiness. And in fact, in their kind of contemplation, and they can see that may this kind of samsaric happiness lead to more genuine happiness of liberation, and beyond that, the more definite happiness of the omniscient state of enlightenment. And so there's this sort of like automatic, natural, spontaneous response in the mind to both suffering, which brings forth also kind of an enthusiasm to confess and to purify as well as those other lessons. And of course, then the happiness that arises is an automatic, spontaneous urge to engage, straight away in more virtue. And this is so important. And also we must question, really, if this is not our modus operandi when both suffering and happiness arise, how can we really refer to ourselves as Mahayanists? That it has to be reflected in our practice, and that practice has to be our way of life.
我的恐怕写上，我打的这南边用过用过，那我不要过来结束一了，我打这南边用过没有打，我写个说我就刚刚问的 research 这里用过多了，我打也不知晓，也那么多，这用过么多了，得用到了别处去，好多都南边的学的是，我那都没是得把这个一般呢。得把用过，他我都不能出去讲过，没是得把用啊说，没听过用啊说，但用啊的了。我做了用哎，原来这个原来东西，但这里用这个的好把因子，用这都，哎，这个就呢，确实被春节了，别就当，东西就呢，确实被春节了，别就当是的，但这这三不当呢，别就当还得多，哎，大概那些个这东西就那个了，哎，让给来个啥吧，这个嘛这吧，这个的，但让啥嘛，他一边嘛给是不是他听那些啥吧，这个也得过去嘛说说的，哎，让给讲话这种了我，这种东西嘛就我说说。아니 랑게 동에 대다가 동에 탐정 고쳐 봐서 아니 동네 미과지는 둘래 어다 근데 쟤네 다 맞아 제대 제가 이나 아니 랑게 동네도 최주에 통계를 치 말아 다 디기네 디기네 된시네 아 나를 디기 좋아해 줘 어다 그 심제 셔봐줄래 아니 디기 된시 용해 되게 뭐지 제가 아니 저 타바다 탐제 심제 탐제도 산제 고마 토변 아니 뭐지 제대 줄을 뭐지 어제 제가 다 대도 가르치는 최초의 통계를 배주다 대대지는 거주고요.
And so if this is our modus operandi, if this is the way that we live our lives, then that's wonderful. And I rejoice in that. That's really fantastic. And it's for all of us who we're talking about here, isn't it? That if we are not at that level as yet, then we need to kind of to bring it about and to bring that about. And that takes effort, of course. We need to put the effort in to make sure that we are that aware, that mindful constantly. And that, this is what is, again, part of what is meant by leading a meaningful life. That we are able to understand the essential kind of alterations that we need to adopt, and to really consistently apply them in our lives. So that means that all happiness and all suffering are equal in the sense that we are using both automatically, spontaneously, to enhance our spiritual practice. And that means that we are also expanding our reach, our motivation as well, to include all sentient beings, really. That, when it's suffering that we are experiencing, that we are able to say, to make this more meaningful, I will take on all the suffering of all sentient beings who are experiencing like this right now. Of the happiness that I am experiencing, I want to give that, to dedicate that to all sentient beings so that they can experience it. And use that taking and giving practice, that beautiful taking and giving practice. And so, and then to dedicate all our happiness to others, dedicate all our happiness to gaining complete enlightenment, so that we can benefit all sentient beings in a perfect way. So these are kind of all of the kind of like the mind training thoughts and the mind training ideas that we really need to insist on inserting into our lives and keeping there.
다들 디 누가디 배주 땅에 아니 뭐네 개원 납치못 사투에 아니 디과 날 사버들 납치못 딱답 제투야 아니 최소 디과들의 마사에 탑지 거스적으로 디고도 배주 야구 땅지마 있나 아니 뭐 저거 미지 되다 대마차다 아니 미 남주도 배주 용구도 와
And we should see this as sort of an special responsibility and a special opportunity because we have a human rebirth, and that this is so important. The body itself isn't so special, but we have this mind, this intelligence, that we can make these adjustments. We can transform our whole attitude and insert that into our daily life to really transform everything that we are doing. And to really, when we talk about, being human, we have to aim for a kind of a higher level where one is kind of a fully qualified human being. And that means being able to greet both happiness and suffering with an even mind like this, and being able to use both and commandeer both for one's spiritual practice, and to be able to dedicate our virtue in a much more expansive way as we have described, and to be able to accept what's happening to us with an equanimity of mind as well. So this verse is really emphasizing this capacity for us to both not just understand the logic behind the law of cause and effect, but see the essentialness of being able to insert that, integrate that into our lives, and that therefore, even at the cost of your life, never do wrong. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. So we can see that as in all levels of practice, how quintessential the practice of the law of cause and effect is, whether when one is aiming to attain liberation, of course, it's absolutely essential. But what more we say then when one is aiming to perfect all the trainings on the bodhisattva path in order to attain enlightenment? So verse number 9, like dew on the tip of a grass, pleasures of the three worlds last only a while and then vanish. Aspire to the never-changing supreme state of liberation. And this is the practice of the bodhisattva. And so here, since most of you will already understand that reference to the three worlds, but maybe that because there are newer people here, just to explain that when we talk about cyclic existence, we have the 6 realms of cyclic existence, and as one aspect of the celestial beings, the asuras, the human beings, the animals, the hungry spirits, the hell realm beings. But here in the 3 realms, it's referring to all of what is included in cyclic existence. And this refers to 1, the form realm, 2, the desire realm, 2, the form realm, and 3, the formless realm. These are the 3 realms referenced here.
Dilla. Getting what's a dilla, and don't come asking your ma. That dilla, the getting what's in it, and that you go so that the shag is what you think is good. What that intention to come asking your.
And so here in the desire realm is where these 6 realms are included. We talk about the human realm as a part of the desire realm, the hungry spirits and so on, part of the desire realm. And then some of the celestial beings are also part of the desire realm. And so here, the clue is in the name itself, that we get that name, desire realm, because of the desires that are the strong desire that we have to the objects of the senses. So desire towards sounds and form and sights and tastes and so on. This gives a rise to then how much we are kind of like attached in this way.
What did it tell? Did you take you so that double me pay that the sensory lebadi chedo and that with chatan dedicating your
and we can see how, in the human realm, we'll talk about people saying, I want to be happy, I'm searching for happiness, I need happiness. So what they are talking about, vast majority of the cases, are some sense of a fulfillment through the objects of the senses, some coarse levels of the feeling of happiness inspired by the sense contacts. And that here, that the vast majority of human beings actually dedicate their entire life and all their energies in the pursuit of this kind of happiness. So you can see it's a well-named realm.
What did that? That did it. That did it. That did anything that did it. Any less the dig that you less on both sides again. The leg the basana, Tizarang, near to some like Ketria, less on both sana, and Tizarang Hata. That can judge Mila get to you on take it to a Taticasana, Tenation, but Taticasana did so Casade and Chicaso Tachi to Vegi to a chata to get Yushibang and to get the get with it and anything shall have pepper to the Chimbata, La Sobaco, La Sobati chatted. What did it say? That then, oh, that Dubaki journey. Dubaki and I bet to them a good thing there. Did it do you Shawadu Juna, Kayamako Sogres and a delay tight and it Sungabel Hakiwaina Harkiwaina, and it's a Casoda Takaja Rokaja the Takaja to Vegi and to get together Tavaina, and Tayamushim and Ketchamores and Otakaja to about because Sungabas with 6 one. Dylan Yabato, less and was our finger of Yabato. Something a mushy thing would Shenet and mushy. Some two young Javala ten and it gave you. Tada was the Vegas had a meal like Javala and Shenet and mushy top your mother. Takaja, Chitum Soya, Savakoya, the Chibata, it is the call. What? This is called what? That in a young, the niggas Vegas want to Tobala and to Shenet and mushy go. That Shenet and mushy tell to and the Valley Gurten. The Valley Gurten and Tillet had and Sungab like Gage. What did you do? Chicken song, and it the Casa and Shenecom, what did the channel, and someday come Comas Sungamas get to you. To make the Shapafna, to make the Jungle Jopana, Sungamas get. And the Casa the Mio and less, and then let the Jevo Miabato and come Comal get. Mio and less, that did do, and Shenecom, and something wish to the Kenny Keko, Mio and less. What will keep what are the la Sungabacha? And the Sungabalata Sungabata that needed to do some with that Mabutomo Chata, Sunga Santa when you was Suma Shiva Sumur. And the Gita de Lata, that's Sumesime. That's Sumesha, Nambata, Nafete, Chiames. That is the Debacha, Sungabacha, Sumekan Sum Yontigo. That you get it. What did it? That you get. Toshi the city, that depot the Chazan the goddess and Quabas.
And so the general layout of the desire realm, as we have been talking about, is that if we engage in negativities and accumulate negative karmas, they will more than likely send us to what are called the lower realms, being either an animal realm or a hungry spirit realm or the various hell realms. And then within the desire realm, again, if we accumulate virtuous karma or good karmas, they can lead us to what are called the fortunate rebirths within the desire realm, being a human being or some kind of a celestial being. So this is the and like here though the strong kind of like predilection that beings have in the desire realm is desire for one object or another. Yet they can practice ethics, they can practice generosity, patience, and so on to try and meet their goals. So see, then there's the particular practitioners who have emphasized more meditation and concentration. And so these develop then, they see the problems of the desire realm and this kind of like the kind of a predilection towards attachment and so on, and see that as a fault, and see all of in what the whole layout of cyclic of the desire realm as a fault. And so they then really put their energies into developing various concentrations, and then that can lead to, that sets out a special kind of karma called unmoving karma that can result in a rebirth in a form realm. And so this is then the other world system that is referred to here, the second of them. And the form realm is again marked by various concentrations. There are 17 different levels. No need to go into that here, but they're all kind of related to the sort of this idea of both the two impulses that inspire one's meditation. One is that one has a distaste for what came before. And so, for example, the so-called what is to be gained in the desire realm, one no longer sees any benefit in that. One sees through that as sort of the desire realm happiness. And then the other impulse is then this desire for the certain bliss of meditation and concentration. And this is what drives then the development up through the form realm. And then the formless realm is again marked by the different subtleties of meditations, going up through different levels until one reaches what is called the peak of cyclic existence. And yet all of what has been described, whether we it in the desire realm, in the form realm, and now in the formless realm, all are subsumed into cyclic. They're all part and all in cyclic existence.
다들 이거 먼저 대화와디 세바 락바라 배주 당되게 저래. 전에 컴 보마르도 세바 차다 세바 락바 점라. 다 세바 차다 아니 지금 배주 당되게. 다들 가서 땡해질 때 용어도 와. 그 다들 가서 검자는 검이 약고 뭐야 가서 가서 세바 락바 센스를 되게 다들 미그 단도 옹세 되게 옹비 세바 되게 배 중보질 되게 되게라네 가서 마 두답게 삼로 개마다 되네 되게 아니 검자도 검 용고요 말이 그래서 가서는 세바 락바 되게 배 중보질 되게 되게 그마 가서라 다 되게 마 가서다 지금 마 누바리 총도 전에 다 좀세도네 삼로 땅 아니 이게 세바 되고도 좋네 옹세들 좀세 뭐 말해 남자 유태원도 남자 사오고 와 좀세 고고 말다 이세들 좀세 이세 모두 걸 좀세 먹고 사는 좀세 삼로다 옹비 셔가지고 내가 내 맞주 맞지 좀세 삼로다 좀세 예바 되게 다가랑 갈 SM 샤트 외쳐 아니 범잡 생각 거 다른 것도 검 약고 내고 뭐도 상관 옹비 셔가지고 중고 싶을 때다 뒤 용거 요 말마 다 삼대 연구실도 개원도 아니 옹비 셔가지고 샤샤가 내가 맞지 맞잖아 차도도 내가 맞아 차도 아니 그 샤바도 차다 샤바 차라 깨잖아 감좀 샤오도
So here we're talking about the different levels of consciousness, really, that are being used within these different realms. So, for example, in the desire realm, it's rather coarse levels of consciousness based on the senses that are almost exclusively in use. So when one enters into a meditative concentration, that is what can access then these more subtle levels of consciousness that are necessary to abide in and to gain the form and formless realms of existence. And so here, when we are so preoccupied with sense consciousnesses, we can find meditation to be very difficult, and that we still can't get, because it's almost like meditation and sense consciousnesses are diametrically opposed, in the sense that when we meditate, we need to bring the mind inward and to kind of start to focus on something quite exclusive and discrete, whereas the sense consciousnesses are always directed outwards and bring forth these distractions of the mind that do not allow for such disciplining of the focus of consciousness. So here it's necessary then to use reasoning also in order to reasoning that supports meditative concentration, and that gives us good reason to really diminish the kind of effect and the influence of the sense consciousness and allow us to bring our concentration into the mind level of consciousness. And so this is, often depends on whether our meditation is good or bad or successful or unsuccessful, is the degree to which the sense consciousnesses are at play or not.
되면 하이 디게데 도사매야 되겠지. 아니 채야 하자는 거래. 루아페랑 어저께 그래서 미기 다 니마치 그래서 대다 하이 되면 하이 니마치 잡아들은 것도 미 롱압자 소리스네. 아니 근데 이게 채채야 뭐 아니 디게 다 미세다 도사매야 되겠지. 다 디게 무슨 비다고 요 되게. 아니 가디이나 룰레 지마시모가 야고 시우지 여한테 이나 남시나 그 leg 펴봤자도 할 치대스는 뻔이야. 누가 봐도 매번 못해 줘. 그와 남규를 하다 하면서 장마시를 소소 치래 걸어 지금 요마데 안 주다 지만 맞지 안 소소 매도 되게 당 되게 냠 소소 루비 당 되게 냠 아니 가와지고 유면데 통 아니 하이 되게 쳐다주는 개와사도는 주마도 아니 치대 봐도 배 다시 우제 하이 치대서 강해 주자 누가 봐도 매번 못해 다 강해 좀 들도 아니 다가니 저 동가마다 수백할 되돌아 아니 지금 가서래 다 간제 지금 땅 알아도 대화 되베게 하이 대화 이제 두 사람 말 무슨 대화 치고 되게 지금 대화 빠도 매고 요 되게 요 이내야 내가 편바 세트도 야 마사한 거 코사메 삭제게 내이 뭐 인자 그 미바 비도가 다들 인자 시순 대화 자제 시바시 스타시바 수게 대화데 지금 그러와 로았다 지금 가서 내가 가자 타바다 탐색 겸에 대화를 쓰게 이마 이나 타바다 탐색 겸에 대화데 안에 배 담불이 용서하게다 지금 자소당 추여세 그가 소라샤 안에 다다 이게겠다 지금 아주 스바 코에게 디게 바나 하이 수감이나 수메이나 미 디게 딱가 디게 사이트 그 스바네 시부터 그게 말했어 사이트 그 스바네 시 안에 타바다 탐색 겸에 디게 딱 가자 지금 자소 전번에 시켰잖아 that digi setup again and digi time again what that end making that the thing is that in the joint by what the system digi that is was use some chicken because of jibe changing stuff but never in that to see the one name about the sort of leg she want to get to your record never me about and it got give it in the what is the candidate 다 지금 가서 지난 미 세대도 세대 거래다 이내 디게 코나 런치도 알고지 유상의 세트가 소시었다. 안데가 타바다 탐색 때문에 디게를 써도 그 유상 차대요 봐. 아니 남이 딱 가서다. 남야 미조 탑에 되었다 남야 교가 메게다 다 탑에 디기레스 가서 탑에 고마 초 탑에 고마 디나는 초도 저보다 탐지 김에 고마 좋아 탑에 고마 초 탐지 김에 고마데 아니 또 다들 계세 다니 전부터 남주제 임바 인사 아니 가서 돈도 니 와서 다디 태도 돈도 니 예, 냐와데 아니 계세 라니 해 보자.
So therefore, too, when we talk about happiness in a human existence, people may pay great importance on such happiness, but by comparison, even with the celestial beings in the desire realm, our happiness is really quite pathetic. What the desire realm celestial beings can experience is a kind of a bliss that is really beyond our imagination, that we have no sense of it. The kind of enjoyment they get from different scents and the clothing that they wear, etc., every experience they have, and also the duration of it. Remember, like 1 year of life in a celestial realm, a celestial being in the desire realm, is 500 years of human time. And so they have this kind of like experience that is somehow completely beyond us. And that, however, they, as we have pointed out, because they are within cyclic existence, because the karma that got them there is called contaminated karma, it runs out. And they then they have to experience what are called the signs of impending death, which are often described as the worst mental sufferings in all of cyclic existence, because they're separated from all of the bliss that they have enjoyed for so long and become so habituated to. Their bodies sweat for the very first time, and therefore they are shunned by their dearest friends and isolated, that their clothing fades, that their flower garlands fade, and that they have no desire to sit on their beautiful seats, and so on and so on. And that this sort of isolation and loneliness is unbearable. And they must again experience that for quite some time. Not to mention the fact that they have now used up all the excellent karma that got them there in the first place. And so they can only look forward to a lower rebirth. And similarly, in the form and the formless realms, that as wonderful as and as almost limitless as the bliss that is experienced in those realms, and this is a particular subtle bliss that comes from meditative concentration too. And so it's something that is really exquisite in terms of, by comparison with anything we experience in the human realm here. But because it is still contaminated karma, it will exhaust. And therefore, these realms are temporary, and they will again fall to lower realms after their time is done in the form and formless realms. So here this is what's being referred to as in this verse. It's saying, like dew on the tip of a grass, pleasures of the three worlds last only a while and then vanish. They are temporary. This is the nature of all of this kind of so-called happiness, because in cyclic existence, nothing lasts. And so this is what's being referred to here. And that, to make a comparison, that the bliss of liberation and of the omniscient state of enlightenment is like an ocean, by comparison with this dewdrop on the tip of a blade of grass, that is representative of all of the happiness and bliss in cyclic existence. And so this is what the verse is really emphasizing then. For somebody who's serious about the bodhisattva practices, it says, aspire to the never-changing supreme state of liberation. And this is the practice of the bodhisattva, because we've been through all of that, from the peak of cyclic existence down to the hell without respite, experiencing everything that there is to be experienced in cyclic existence, and seeing that it is momentary, this is temporary, and it always changes. And so they therefore to kind of like aim for that unchanging supreme state of liberation. This is the practice of the bodhisattvas.
그래도 그냥 어서 섬제 탐제도 산제 고바 주바이나 그냥 돌로 소라잖아. 오다 계제 장면 숨 어떻게 이런 거 시부지를 샤서다 요한테 얘네야 주제 소라미네 버려. 이런 거 레데 얘네야 거 냠내 지게 저런 거 람녀도 그걸 봐. 다다다 코나네 다 되네 대자와이나 고도에 타려요 맞다. 엔드먼도 와. 가스나 le shaba chiga phane kyawa lebe kala mashi ga pato pe kasada second rere ne ani mari be ko ne la le sa namje da paja sha ta kan ide chen ra pena mo nima dire chukola cha cha shogala na manye pato le sa ba peta jangle deva sa yo jangle deva sa tige wata dire judo ko thari ga thap me dige judo thari thap me dige 다 다른 밀류톱 산지가 때마다 제 다 되게 구급 들라 아니 다 되네 뭐지 또네 다 지금 맞잖아 다 탑매 되겠지 탑매 되지도
So one may be overwhelmed by the notion, the concept of working for 3 countless great eons in order to attain enlightenment to benefit all sentient beings, and think, oh, that's such a long time. How can I possibly be expected to keep it up for that long? But saying on the one hand, if one persists in one's practice, one is in a genuine way, one is getting closer to that time all the time. But in the cyclic existence, if we remain in cyclic existence, there's no perceivable end to it. It doesn't have a time frame at all. That we are kind of constantly there, generating negativity arising from a motivation based on ignorance, a lack of understanding, and the ignorance related to the true nature of existence. And we're just perpetuating not just cyclic existence, but the reasons, the causes for maintaining our status in cyclic existence. And so there's no end to it there, and so there can be no release, no liberation from it. So we need to be able to say, okay, this 3 countless great eons, as long as it is, if I make, every great journey, say, starts with the first step. And so I need to start my practice and persist in that practice and knowing that I'm getting closer all the time. And so this is very, very important to understand.
아니 나 거기 소소 냠내자 거두이네 단대네 단대지만 단다 가리에서 모두라 가야 된게 타기요 말 남주 저르면도 그래서 단다 모두라 연중의 셈 주마 많이 버지요 말 연중의 셈 주마 많이 버지요 봐이나 진짜 답이기는 더 되게 와 이거 네 아니 나가는 게 가라도 땡에 되죠 말에 연중의 셈 주마 많이 버겠나 땡에 찍게 돼 땡에 와다 땡에지 시대처럼 개고 근데 땡에지 지어봐이나 아니 라라 루이신가나 셈지가니 개와라 같이 샤네 강에 매게 좀 그래 좋아요 해좀 그래 되게 중요한 여사들 절렀다 아니 지금 내내 가서는 다 가져제 내내 대도 줘야라 뺐다 좋아다 가비만 되지도 강에 좀 매되겠지 나도 뭐도 가서 맞아 요 말은 통계와라 맞아 내대대 어다 깔래 시부터 고추네 깔래 좀 말다 단다 고추는 지금 땡에서 주변에다 연중 깨的배도 잡으나 남지라 란줄라 연중 주마만 받게나 장주가 셈 주마만 받게 봐이나 아니 땡에서 요래 땡에서 매와 땡에서 시대면 자주 셈 깨도 말해 아니 땡에서다 되게 되게 자게 여사들 오호 아니 되네 다 같이 톨람에 졸람자 안 되네 톨람에서 돈인 것으로 또 사대 사당보아래 사대 사당보아래도 계지질라 루자투도 그래 산제신 잘라줘도 그래 아니 산니발래도 아니 똥라줘도 그래 어다 되네 저도 딱 같이 지금 누가 쉬우지 소사 되다 납치고 시우정 되었고 단다 강에 치시 단다 쳐라 죽마도 그 강에 저 딱다지 좀마도 그 단다디 강에 지 세바이나 아니 내가 랄라달라달라도 되시도 뭐 여기 내서 망망망망 시에도 그 랄라달 단다 뭐 여기 내서 마시고 오게 와
So this means that, to apply the kind of the primary advantage that we have, our intelligence, is extremely important at this point. And then proceed with reasoning to understand that I need to understand renunciation, not just in an artificial sense, but to get a real genuine realization of renunciation. And that's something, once we have that in our mind, and it really is a tremendous boost to the kind of dedication we have to the path. And so that then leads to, developing the mind of enlightenment itself and having a genuine realization of the mind of enlightenment. And once we have that, we know we also have meditative concentration, because we need that meditative concentration to really gain that direct to realize the mind of enlightenment itself properly. So that's proceeding, through the paths of accumulation, the paths of preparation, and so on. And we get to the path of seeing, and we gain a direct realization of emptiness, the path of seeing, and then we're on the first bodhisattva ground. Then we have automatically, instantly, you can emanate 100 bodies, go to 100 Buddha realms, receive 100 teachings at the same time. Things will get easier, will get much easier. And that as we go along. Now, the problems that we have, if we can overcome them, persist through, because we're at that beginning stage where we're taking baby steps, but we can overcome the problems that we have now. And then we gain more assurance, more strength and persistence and courage and so on, and inspiration to affect our practice. And we can then start to practice with tremendous joy and inspiration and enthusiasm, where we won't want to see an end to it, So this is something that we can look forward to in the future once we take these steps along the path. And also that as well as the overcoming the difficulties at an early stage, that will be very effective for us in practice, but also the more we gain of the true knowledge of reality, and to really see things the way they really are, that's also a great inspiration to practice.
What did I say?
Right. So I thought to leave it there if you guys have any questions. So feel free to ask questions now. If there are no questions, I can go on to another verse. So if you have any questions. Looks like there are no questions.
Yeah. What did I say? Tome dune dal zewache manam duna tome dune dal zewache manam duna rande chishi cha deje tayo simje deweche janju simje jese lale ni.
So verse number 10 states, when your mothers, who've loved you since time without beginning, are suffering, what use is your own happiness? Therefore, to free limitless living beings, develop the altruistic intention. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
동네 그라시면 또 민도스. 좋아? 너와다 너다 되게 아니 딜에 타다 타바지 마도 타민도스 타까지 예버주는 뭐다든지 타바텀도 로케 타바텀도 로케 온도 다 라니 찍고 시도 되니게 로케잖아 다 가자지 가서데 다 기부팅 걸 남라 다 슈토에게 남가제 여러와 이나야 다 가자 뒤뒤 다 가자 저 랑게 지금 가서도 다 기부 팅걸 남라 다 마슈바체나 다 가자 지금 다 가자 저 토마토나 라를 진짜에 다 가자 저 심제 이야월 도잖아 란주고 타바지 도는데 지만 지금도 다들 이봐 인자 다 가자 저 토마토나 어서 달라 저와체 기타 마게 심제 탐제 이야월 도자 란주고 타바도 아니 심제 셈바 다 지금 탐바 주미에게 안지 탑시 제 매번에 탑제 맞다 탑시 여바든 게 맞지만 이나 지금은 도잖아. 아니 만나 도나 라데베 치시자. 제가 대체 따로 다 탑시 매바 이나 다 탑시 매바 다 탑시 여바 되게 맞으면 라주고 되게 대화 되는 다 지금은 도 치시자. 대체 타이 심제 제베체 타이가 막게 심제 제베체 아니 자주 샘께와 되는 개색을 날려서 뭐다 다 탑시 매바 이나 다 제 매바로 다 탑시 매바로 다 탑시 연에 맞으면 다 지금은 도스네 와
So when we are contemplating cyclic existence, we endeavor to develop this mind of renunciation. And this is based on reflecting on suffering as it relates to ourselves initially. And we can see that, there is no real relief wherever we are born in cyclic existence, be it in the desire realm, the formless realm, that they're all marked by everything being in the nature of suffering. And so therefore, I need to attain that state of liberation from cyclic existence altogether to gain relief from that suffering. And so that's the path that we then follow for that time to gain a kind of a personal liberation. But this verse is saying, this is not really good enough, that we cannot ignore kind mother sentient beings and that are still suffering in cyclic existence. And so that's something that we need to do something about. And it's saying that, if there is nothing that we can do about it, then it's justified to be able to just aim for your own personal liberation. But if there is something that can be done about it to help other mother sentient beings, then it would be rather disgraceful to ignore them and to avoid doing it. So this is what it's saying. When your mothers who have loved you since time without beginning are suffering, what use is your own happiness? You cannot just go for your own happiness alone. You have to be able to reach a point where you can benefit them as well. Therefore, to free limitless living beings, develop the altruistic intention, the mind of enlightenment, in fact. And this is the practice of bodhisattvas.
아니 라도도 지금 타바참 타바이나야 타바참 타바이나 아니 지금 가서다 지금 가서다 생각도 타침바 제도고 말이라 아니 랑게도 타치야 말 가서 세자 탐제 시발라 받지 지와요 시집 대대요 와 시집 대대도 더더 지와 용서 반요 말이 아니 랑게도 타치야 말이 다 코안에 타바래 코안이 동에다 노에 매봤다 노에 매봤을 때 이나야 랑게 가서데 더 용서 좀 차여서 차여 말 세자 시발라 받을 수 있게 지와요 근데 이마 인자 랑게 되나 삼로 땅바 이나야 갑자기 뭐 도베디 게좀 못 찾대요 산재 고마 주에 다 생각도는 시험 거래 어떻게
And so it's saying here too that, if we just attain mere liberation, we may think that's a wonderful attainment, but in terms of the overall path, it has neither fulfilled the purpose of all sentient beings, nor our own purpose. And so it's kind of falling short on two counts, because for one, we have still got the obscurations to enlightenment, to omniscience on our mind stream, and we need to really eradicate them in order to attain enlightenment. And that then we have, that we definitely attained liberation from cyclic existence. That means we have overcome the deluded obscurations, but we still have these obscurations to omniscience. And without that, we need to be able to fulfill the purpose of sentient beings. And to do that, we need to attain full enlightenment.
我的是，他这个在啥是吧？在啥呢？那大感觉，的确可是，但是我要对多些个吧？我的，但我的啥
？So let's leave it there for today.
我的啥？他的呢？这个说的，我的讲，大感觉这个让给对的了，大感觉这类是 set up 的哇？我的这，大感觉那个 set 的呢，让给就我别么。搞到当我给我去就说啥多钱，的呢，这个说的，大概他的那个研究，甚至他们三年恐怕主编是个俺的看法都在做呢，俺的然后主要这些都跟这都是在做的，俺的律师米干在做的，等俺的马尼吧打上干了，是不是啊？的那个俺马尼吧的。但是那蛮，当蛮你们说了，他的那个有点的马祖巴地也没给，落地呢，你没经过去就说是的，别没得多钱，的呢，大概这甚至他们这个都三千公嘛，他你他话就嘛，真的这个民族，是吧？他特别这种对军的多，他越往一他那个他话嘛，真的这个民族上这个他话这个上了是当，的那个什么的呢，落地呢，的那个对吧的呢？这个大概经过去了就说什么啥子，对呢？这个把这在那么我就大概就我们的肯定从不是作用，我就在说现在讲了，当兵刚做派，里边刚做修，顺便刚带着去了，三年过妈都不得接受送上这是搞过或者亚拉多面对的这么去或者是。
So then we start to prepare the welcome seat on our own crown. To invite the figure of Chenrezig to be there. We start by contemplating on the renunciation and then gaining, through the contemplation on the suffering nature of cyclic existence and all of that, and from that developing that sense of renunciation, wanting to gain the definite emergence from cyclic existence. The lotus mandala seat is established on our crown. And then this I is wanting to attain this liberation. We start to quiz or investigate where that I is, how it could be, looking into the body and mind, looking for this sense of an objectively existent I, and then reaching that point of analysis where it's the mere negation of that, the mere not finding of that which we are looking for. That brings forth then the sun disk mandala seat, representative of wisdom realizing emptiness. And then the notion of really our motivation should be centered on to quickly attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, all kind mother sentient beings, as the mind of enlightenment, and that then establishes the moon disk mandala seat. And then making the supplication prayer, we invite the figure of Chenrezig to our crown. At the end of the first, O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. The figure starts the journey. At the end of the second recitation, reaches the seat on our crown. At the end of the third recitation, is established steadfastly there until we attain the state of enlightenment, and we can rejoice in that.
我的讲，大概这亚拉多面对这，对比完了的呢，的那个他说的，他创新，那么这呢是这个，这个推举了台湾中，台湾东北这，在中间是不一些结束，这个恐怕写出来也不要，我的讲。
And then at that point, to make the offering of the 7-limb practice and the Mandala offering, this brings forth a sense of appreciation and bliss in the mind of Chenrezig. This bliss is connected to the voidness, and they abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. This, if we can do it, this is very good at this point.
我这，当然，让人认得，大概这 연조 사보다 아니 연조 섬데 나게 니한테 빼마다 제시라 교수 상사체 아니 되네 아니 또 가서 되네 남의 지금 나한테 가봐도 세죠 많이 받 다가라가 셈샤네 아니 되네 그 로티니 아니 님의 좀 것이 교수서 다 되네 이면서 다 심지어 탐정도 산재 고만 요원도 토하지 마자 더 토마치 상사 되네 로지 게 도바티게 아니 되네 그 도바티니 아니 제가서 다위 좀 뭐냐지 뭐 교수 상사체 아니 되네 반드자vel 라마도 뭐 자기 인가 프로메터 커리션 고소도 좀 물어서 그래 수대자 답이 가서페 니베 가서 쇼 수베 가서 때주신 산재 고만마도 제소소 소소 어드레스 코마셔
So then we concentrate on now establishing that seat at our own heart center. And again, through contemplation and renunciation, we bring forth that lotus mandala seat at our heart. And then this self, of looking for that self in the body and mind, realizing the lack of objective existence, the mere not finding of the object of negation. From that mind itself then arises the sun disk mandala seat, and then from thinking about all sentient beings and the wishing them, determined to attain enlightenment in order to be of benefit to them, from that mind itself arising the moon disk mandala seat. And again, we establish this seat at our heart center and invite Guru Chenrezig to come there.
어떤 설레자 담가 니가 가서 패디고 소소된 산재 고마도 접수 아니 그 어떤 산재 고마도 드라마 제에서 접수서 아니 근데 니 빼마 답제 마 남비 니가 가서 인데간데 도치 가고 생각봐 제가 지금 인데서 아까 저저 가기한테 가서 스템 소지요 그거 들었지 아니 디 타고도 아니 지금 가서 제레스가 생각 오마니 빼면 어다 스코라 숨자 아니 되네 아라바자 나티티 아라바자 나티데 아라바자 나티데 코로 숨자 되네 되네가 예타마 예도 타와다다가다 하도 마샤만에서 어디네 코로 숨이 여기 어디네 저 코바시 아니 라게 닝게 요소 라마체레스 슈바티 안 고송토라 외세 트렌 라게 치보네 간지게 바가 르게 다 나탄젤라 아니 외기 참니 디 참발라 되네 라게 토만데만 세til라 사마 디 생각마 땡가와 토만노와 사베 르코네 사베 소주 마진레 이사조와소 아니 주요 참마 지금 아jel라서 나선에서 로달라서 다가자 간디서 사요바 있나 자 제베 하나마도 있나 가신 하나마도 있는데 다 내가 간디서 사요바 있네 대다 탐자다 내가 차소 삼자 고마시 대다 탐자다 시와 중수 아니 하도도 다가자 지금 셈제 탐제도 산제 고마 초발라 다가자 소수 류 대단고 류라 지금 내 나사다 마대와 강에 칼이 요바 있네 아니 대다 탐제 시와 제소 대시와를 때내다 지금 자롱 팅레 겨 거저면 겨디게 시 한국도 뉴도 산제 고마 토발라 아니 지금 겨 치시 탐에게 나신 겨 탐제 장네 아니 가나 탐제 다바라 자 바지 사도 어떤 중수 선자 고마시
And so then we offer the invocation verse again 3 times. O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure on our crown now moves down through our central channel, and then at the end of the second arrives at the seat prepared for us at our heart. At the end of the third, then they remain steadfast there, and we have the certainty that they will remain with us until we ourselves attain enlightenment. And we pause to really rejoice and take joy out of that reality. Then the petals of the lotus fold over the figure of Chenrezig and are sealed at the tips by a 5-pronged white vajra. And then that package is circled by the mantra of compassion or Mani Padme Hum in a clockwise direction. The mantra of Manjushri Omarapatsana in an anti-clockwise direction. And again, the mantra of dependent origination in a clockwise direction. Following that, light rays emanate from the figure inside the lotus petals, permeating out through those petals and indeed through every cell of our bodies, from the crown of our heads to the soles of our feet. And this thereby really eradicating all of the negativities that we have accumulated since beginningless time, all of the obscurations that we have, as well as all their imprints and negativities that we have accumulated by not abiding in the ethics of refraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions, such as killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, all of the negativities of speech, of lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, and the negativities accrued mentally through having attitudes of malicious intent, covetousness, and wrong views. And so all of this is sorted out, and that all of the negativities that we have accumulated that are naturally occurring, and those that have been proscribed in any way by the Buddha, all of these negativities, all sickness, all illness, all disease, all imprints that could lead to those disease and so on, and they are all purified, they are all eradicated, and all of the status of our channels, winds and drops are rectified, are put back in balance from any imbalance, and that especially that the predilection we have for seeing everything in its ordinary appearance is finally overcome, and we see all phenomena in a pure realm existence, a pure realm reality. And so, and yes, this is the.
What the course and that Ragi Sugar Lud Yelegacha, and the Lamacheras and put the hedge against the social the Lamacheras and Kulu. Ragi Sugar assembly in Yelegacha, Lamacheras and two the hedge against Rangis and the Lamashajas and the Lamacheras and Tula Jusu, Rangi Lunga use of the Lama Cheras and Lunga use of more Yemen Chasu, so that and they get the Tamjajan and the Lamacheras and share Kana Jusu. Or the commercial and they were talking about the Japanese machine. So that long Lamacheras could you took a layer and he gets something a ton of research. That comes to make a something a ton of research. And we said that from the subject regular fall to the data come check down and the Lamacheras of Kuzo more you may chasu. Near the data Lamacheras and share color juice. So the water direction that's the time check to be so that you might didn't to so the cow.
And then through the combination of my own most subtle wind with the mind or the body of the figure of Chen Rezik, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of Chen Rezik acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And so I see myself now as inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. That is something to rejoice in. And then, seeing myself in this way, I send out light rays equal to all the sentient beings in all realms of existence, sending out light rays there. They, and touching all these sentient beings, they are spontaneously arise as fully enlightened beings, and the place in which they are also is transformed into the enlightened realm of an enlightened being. And so I can really rejoice at this stage in not fulfilling my own purpose, but also fulfilling the purpose of all sentient beings and leading them today to that state of enlightenment. How wonderful that is, and I rejoice in that fact.
아니 가서 대고에서 소소 개와 가를 좀 요바티다 대 주변 소소의 저 유대는 맞아 봐 동배 팔다잖아 서대도 대화제 대외 동바제 대도니서 이식교소서 고마시
and so this purpose of leading action of leading all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment, the virtue accrued in doing so, the agent myself in leading them to that state, and indeed that state of enlightenment itself, I realize that they lack any objective existence and are merely imputed by thought.
그래. 다다다 지금서 뭐가 이제 잡죠. 다 이내 다다 삼로 따원이셔. 다 문에 거라 때대 교회에 교를 교화서 뭐 마도 와 때대 교화서 서를 뭐하죠.
And so I realize that all of this now that I'm describing is really I'm operating at the level of sort of an aspirational belief or my imagination. But I make a powerful dedication right now so that it may quickly become truly manifest.
다들 임바이자 아니 지금 소소가 다 지금 상에 컨텐츠 태워 있나요? 아니 가서 나와 있나 치와 있나 컨텐츠 뭐 있나요? 뭐다 되게 주 되게 요에 주대 아니 다가 이제 잠지 잠주서 돈이 또 비시라 맞지 못하면 아니 뒤집이게 주를 주가 소소하지 어떻게
And I make this dedication that whatever occurs for me, good, bad, whether I'm sick, whether I'm unwell, whether I'm on the verge of death, it doesn't matter. I will see, may it all be ripe cause for the development of loving kindness, of compassion, of all the noble qualities leading to enlightenment. And I make this, may this happen as quickly as possible. You are Avalokiteshvara, great friend of compassion, not aim but true existence, and my justly master flawless wisdom. as well as Lord Japani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Sankapa, crown, jewel of the sages of the land of snow. Losam Gakta, at your feet, I make requests. So, Owen, Triwa Chick to again.
Oh, yeah, last.
So, Owen, there's a question.
Yes, thank you, Genla. I'll be very quick. Maybe I'll save the question for next week, all right? Is that okay? Because I think Noel might have to go back, All right. Quickly, with the COVID virus, say there's 25 million people in Australia. It looks like there's 24,900,000 who are intent mainly on their own suffering. Now, with Mr. Andrews, our Premier, he is focused on 7 million Victorians for their benefit.
Oh, and don't go there.
Where would he stand in all this, read his karma?
Oh.
And he,
And the COVID virus tonere, what? Tanda ko so the Australia give me board and sayam issues zanga jos, Tanda Victoria la me kaso. How many did you say in Victoria?
It's about 7 million population, including country.
Yes, sayun dun yore, what?
Oh yeah.
And the Premier, Mr. Andrews. He korangi gain re ra me Victoria me, and I tanda the COVID the nasa di tang and lady and a korangi lady kandra shagore.
Korangi le.
Yeah, me Mr. Andrews gile.
That korangi le sama mazo common le, maraz common le, maraz gangagi. Cha ta kasel tungeto cha re kasel tungeto shunga de nazo da so individual lerwa and chidange common leg for that.
So the virus is an example of common karma, where we're all part of that karma, and that the individual variations on how much or less suffering we are experiencing is our individual karma. But as far as this particular virus, it's an example of common karma shared by all of us.
So the depending on the and so as a kind of like a result of this particular pandemic, then the individual cases or experiences are examples of individual karma, whether it's a major obstacle for some, it's a minor obstacle for others, and again, I said some are happy with it, Some
of them it's a cause of happiness for them.
Sure. I was just wondering about Mr. Andrews though. He's taking on all this stuff in the law, under the banner of the law, reduce the effect. What karmic effect personally for him? It seems like some people may say he's a bodhisattva, some may not, for what he's doing. And I believe he's probably Christian, but what's his personal karmic umbrella in this? He's thinking about everyone in the state of Victoria, say it's his job or not, but he's doing it. I'm not saying I have to vote for him, but he's doing that part of his job. But he seems to be doing it with great intent. No, he doesn't show any anger, or very rarely. He doesn't over-exaggerate his answers. He just does it. Yet the opposition is trying to tear him apart. They're showing anger. So he's taking I don't know what his karma is. Yeah.
And Mr. Andrews. Kongi le kandro shagore. Kanda korangi midi saya dundi midi gain re rani. Tapshi mambo chekido and restrictions and things just in a korangi le kandro shagore.
Ta korangi kulon la alegwa. Korangi kulo yakuji kene chegana le sambo sayo yorwa. Ina tada korangi kala kange jorda ina ya opposition shunga yimari chikina kange dire chai bro. Shesing marwa. 단단 것도 통해 고랑 강에 통고요래. 얘나 고랑 멤버 시험하실 레바 이나 지금 딜레 강에 중앙에 그래. 지금 딜레 차 수시해도 그래.
Yeah. So it's kind of saying, again, it goes back and totally depends on his motivation for everything that he's doing, all the decisions that he's making. That will determine his karma. And so that's the answer. And that's the same for those who are opposing him, those who are critical of him. Some are saying he's, making things worse. Some is saying he's making things better. And again, that's their individual karmas for what.
그래서 단단 것도 고랑 깔라 강에 통고요래. 다 고랑 멤버 우지 시험하지 요바 이나. 얘나 오퍼지션 고랑 우지 이마 이나. 야 직전에 강에 차 있으기라 수 통해요. 수가 통해.
Yeah. And so we say we cannot predict, what it would be like if there was a different leader in place. If, the opposition who are critical of him, or if they were put into his position, would the situation be better or worse? We cannot say. And so this is the way it is. That for him alone, his motivation is what determines his karma.
Okay. Thank you.
Big song.
Awesome.
That's all. And it's delay.
Again.
Maybe next time the one is the opposition leader.
No. Oh no, boom. Okay.
Take it.
That's okay, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kenla. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
guys.
everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry for the technical mix-up yet again.
That no jealous of you. That power chasare. Jealous Now no longer only was young Noel. Now father of Noel. Easy.
Maybe computer knows this and creating problems for me.
Last. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Take care.